Last weekend, my wife and I got helix piercings together. We went out to lunch to a sushi place, and while we were there, my wife talked about how she was really thinking about getting a helix piercing. I always wanted a helix piercing. I think they look really good, but I have felt a little less motivated to do it because I am getting a little older these days. I said to my wife, if you want to do it, I'll do it with you. Really? She said excitedly. Sure, I said. She used her phone and found a professional piercing studio that she really wanted to visit. The plan was to take a look around and get a feel for the place, and maybe do it some other day. We had some shopping to do, and some of the stores closed soon, so we had a reason not to jump in and just do it. When we got to the piercing studio, my wife got really excited about it. She told me that I didn't have to do it, but that she really wanted to pierce her ear that day. The piercing studio was hoppin' busy. We talked to several of the folks who worked there as they passed by, and it sounded like a long shot if they could get us in. I thought that we could maybe schedule an appointment for next week, but my wife was so excited that even a maybe was worth a try. We walked to a coffee shop to get some drinks, and when we got back to the piercing studio, they had paperwork ready for us to fill out. My wife asked nervously, "What about the shopping we have to do?" I said supportively, "It can wait until tomorrow." At that point, my wife got really excited. She started scribbling in the information for the paperwork. I had said that I would do it with her if she did it, but as I filled out the paperwork, it started getting hard to write. I get chatty and silly when I get nervous, and I was getting chatty and silly at that point. There was a woman talking to her friend, excitedly and nervously about a possible piercing that she wanted. She kept saying, "Should I do it? Should I do it?" The friend kept saying things like, "If you really want to do it, you should do it," and "I think it'll look really good on you," but their conversation seemed stuck because neither one of them was willing to just say yes. I spoke up. "Do you want a stranger's opinion?" The woman smiled and said, "Sure." I immediately said yes. Her friend nodded her agreement very encouragingly. The woman got the piercing. She was going to do it anyway. The studio didn't quite have enough piercing rooms available, so the plan was to do it in the reception room. The owner of the studio was going to do the piercings herself. She said, "All right, who's going first?" My wife and I looked at each other. We both hesitated a little. I could tell that my wife was willing to go first, but being as nervous as I was, I volunteered to go. I stood up against the wall and did a little bit of a squat so that the piercer could get good access to my ear. She said, "You seem a little nervous. Do you want me to explain what I'm doing?" I said, "It's probably best if you just do it. I don't do well with explanations about needle stuff. When people explain that kind of stuff to me, it makes me even more nervous, even when it's not happening to me." When my wife got an epidural for our first baby, the anesthesiologist explained every step in excruciating detail. As I was sitting there trying to offer comfort by holding my wife's hand like an awesome caring husband, my overactive imagination went into full gear, soaking up every word the guy was saying. And then he pulled out the needle. I had never seen an epidural needle before. The nurse helping the anesthesiologist saw me start to sway. She barked at me, "Aaron, go sit over there, please. I don't want to be collecting you off the floor." I immediately let go of my wife's hand and said, "Thank you. Yes, that's probably a good idea." The anesthesiologist continued to explain the epidural to my wife, while the nurse kept saying, "Aaron, breathe. You can do this." I am prone to fainting during blood draws too, and not even my own. I'm not afraid of them. I just get lightheaded, and sometimes I even pass out. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I do refuse to look anywhere near where it's happening, like I'm scared to death that the needle is going to go in one side and come out the other. I don't know why I get like that. Now that I think about it, that probably has something to do with it. The paperwork at the piercing studio did ask if I was prone to passing out, and I did answer honestly, so she had fair warning. The piercer asked, "Can I at least count to 3 when it's time?" I agreed to that, and she kept working on my ear. The piercer, my wife, and I chatted while things got situated. It didn't make me more nervous, but it didn't make me less nervous either. Finally, the piercer said, "Okay, 1, 2, 3. I felt the piercing mechanism do its job. It felt a little bit like a burning punch, but not bad. I will say, though, as I stood there, I did start to hear the voices around me start to fade a bit. Did I pass out, though? I didn't pass out. I was good. I did get a little juice box after it was all over, though. That did help me feel a little better. After I was done, a piercing room opened up, so my wife got to sit in a reclining chair while she got pierced. The piercer asked if she could explain the procedure to my wife. My wife agreed. I sipped on my juice box and blocked out that conversation. So now my wife and I are officially piercing buddies, a piercing couple, if you will. And that's actually a lot more awesome than I thought it would be. And it really doesn't hurt at all. So now I have a little ghost in my ear. I think it's cute. I can't wait for it to heal up. I think a hoop would look awesome there. Before we left, another woman came into the studio. The woman was my age. It looked like she was feeling a little apprehensive. I asked her what she wanted to get done. She said that she wanted second piercings. I told her about my experience and how nice it was. She asked me if I got my original piercings done at the studio. I said no, I got mine at Claire's a few years ago. My kids laughed at me while I held onto the teddy bear. She laughed and said, I got mine done at Claire's 40 years ago. I had to wait until I was 16. I said, I had to wait until my 40s to get mine. It is fun to watch my generation beginning to realize that we can do whatever we want with our bodies without the old stereotypes and fear-mongering stopping us. I definitely recommend getting piercings at a professional piercing studio. It takes a few months to heal, so plan on that. But if you're thinking of a fun way to spice up your look, if it's something you've always wanted to do, but you just couldn't in the past, it's an option that I would definitely recommend.